2 mark important questions and answers. First question is, so what is motivations in education? Motivation in education is the process of arousing, directing, and sustaining students' interest and efforts towards learning and achieving educational goal. Then what is learning? Learning is a relatively lasting change in knowledge, skill, attitudes, or behavior resulting from experience, practice, or interactions with the environment. Then, what is the relations between motivations and learnings? Answer. Motivations provides the energy and directions for learning. It increases attention, force, participations, and persistence, which facilitates learnings. Then mention 2 types motivations. Answer is intrinsic motivations and extrinsic motivations. What is intrinsic motivations? Intrinsic motivations comes from the within the learners. A student learns because of interest, curiosity, enjoyment, and personal satisfactions. Then what is extrinsic motivation? Extrinsic motivations arise from the external rewards or consequences such as marks, prize or recognitions. How does motivations affect attentions? Motivations helps learners to focus their attentions on learning activities and relevant informations. Then how does motivations affect effort? Answer. Motivations encourage students to invest times and energy in learning tasks and practice regularly. Then, how does motivations affect persistence? Motivations encourage students to continue learning even when they um, encounter difficulties to temporary failures. Then, mention 2 functions of motivations in learnings. Answer is it direct behavior towards learning goals. It sustains efforts during the learning process. Then what is motivations importance for students? Motivations encourage students interest, attention, efforts, participations, and persistence in learnings. Then how does motivations improves classroom participations? Motivated students are more willing to answer questions, participations in discussions, complete activities, and interact with teachers and peers. Then, what is achievement motivations? Achievement motivations is the desire to perform successfully and attain a desired standards of achievements. Then, motivations mention 2 internal factors of affecting motivations: interest and self-confidence. Then mention 2 external factors of affecting motivation: teachers encouragements, family support. Then what is the role of the teachers in motivations? The teachers motivations learners by creating interest, setting clear goals, providing feedback, encouraging participation, and mentions a supportive classroom environment. Then how does feedbacks influence motivations? Constructive feedback helps learners understand their progress, identify areas for improvements, and mentions efforts. Then what is the role of goal? What is the role of goal in motivations? Goal provide directions and helps learners understand what they are expected to achieve. Then how does extrinsic motivation supports learning? It encourages curiosity, independence, learning, creativity, and sustains interest in learning. Then 20 number. How does extrinsic motivation supports learning? It can encourage students to wings or continue learning through um, appropriate rewards, recognitions, or desired outcomes. Then mention 4 benefits of motivations in learnings. increase attentions, develop interest, encourage efforts, then promotes persistence. Then 22. What is the meant by motivated learning? Answer is motivated learning is learning in which the students shows willingness, interest, effort, and persistence towards achieving learning goals. Then, why should teachers consider individual difference in motivations? Students have a different interest, abilities, need, and goals. So, some motivated approaches may not work equally well for every learners. Then 24 number. What is the role of interest in learning motivations? Answer is interest creates a willingness to engage with learning activities and helps sustain interest, attention, and efforts. Then 25 number. Write the relations between motivations and achievement. Answer is motivation encourages attention, efforts, practice, and persistence, which can contribute to better learnings and academic achievements. Thank you for listening.